Good day, everybody. I hope that you're well, and I also hope that you are having a good day so far. Today, we'll be doing our grade 7 English lesson on sentences, fragments, and run-ons. And before we start, we're going to log on to aplusstudents.ca. And once we've logged on to aplusstudents.ca with our username as well as our password, and then we're going to select the subject of English Language Arts, grade 7. And then we're going to scroll down up until we get to the chapter all right. So our chapter is sentences, fragments, and run-ons. Our subject is English Language Arts. All right. And if we focus on our lessons, right, our lessons for today is it a complete sentence or a fragment, or is it a complete sentence or a run on? So we are going to focus on those lessons under the chapter of sentences, fragments, and run ons. All right. So basically, a sentence, right? A sentence is a group of words that forms a complete thought. So a sentence or sentences is a group of words that basically completes a thought. All right. So we said a sentence is a group of words that forms a complete thought, and it has a subject which will tell us either who or what is doing in action, as well as a verb, right? The action that is being done by the subject, right? And here we have an example of a sentence that completes a thought by saying, my friends walk along the path. All right. So now, when we look at sentences, right? A sentence is a group of words that does not express a complete thought, right? A sentence fragment. But a sentence, okay, let's start with a sentence. A sentence is a group of words that forms a complete thought, right? And when we have a sentence, right, it has a complete subject and it has a verb, right? If we look at an example of a sentence, right? So basically, a sentence, it is a group of words that forms a complete thought and it has a subject and a verb, right? And then we have a fragment, right? And a fragment is a group of words that does not express a complete thought. It's usually missing either a subject or it keeps on missing. For example, this is a sentence fragment. It is either missing a subject or it's missing a verb or it's missing a helping verb. All right. So if we look at it says this is a sentence fragment, right? And how do we know it's a sentence? Like for example, if we say knows the answer, right? So if we just say knows the answer, then that is a fragment. And how do we know that? Because it needs to tell us who knows the answer, right? And that is not there. Because remember, a sentence has a complete thought that has both a subject as well as a verb. So basically, if we look at that sentence that says knows the answer, and then I made a question mark in front of it because the question is who knows the answer. And then we have the bright red car. The bright red car. And this sentence, the bright red car, seems as if it is done. All right. And then we also have another one. It says, we skiing next week. We skiing next week. And remember, if you also don't put helping verbs there, then that is also just going to be a fragment. So sentence fragments, right? It does not express a complete thought, and it's either missing a subject, it's missing a verb, or it can even miss a helping verb. All right, so now let's go to aplusstudents.ca. All right. So now we said our chapter is sentences, fragments, and run-ons. So now we're going to, is it a complete sentence or a fragment? And remember, we said a sentence. It expresses a complete thought, right? A sentence is a group of words that expresses a complete thought, right? And it has both a subject as well as a verb. All right. So we say that a sentence fragment, it is a group of words that does not express with a complete thought. It doesn't express a complete thought. It's either missing a verb, an adjective, or an adverb. All right. All right. So if we were to select a subject, right, we would say my friends is a friend, or let's say a sentence is a group of words that that expresses a complete thought. And when we say it expresses a complete thought, then it means that it has a subject, it has a verb. All right. And remember, we said with fragments, right? It's either missing a subject, it's missing either a verb, it's missing a verb phrase, it's missing either one word or two words, right? But that is a sentence fragment because going to the a word, you need to have both pairs, right? And a word needs to have a complete sentence in. All right. So a sentence, a complete sentence has a subject as well as a predicate. But then we have a sentence that is fragment, right? All right. Let us go to our, we said we have a sentence and a fragments. So yeah, we said we mentioned the bright red car. We mentioned we skiing next week as well as knows the answer. Those are three examples of sentences or let's say fragments, right? Where it's either missing a noun or a subject, it's missing a verb, or it is missing a helping verb. All right, so if we look at our sentence, we're going to say which is a sentence fragment. Remember, a fragment is either missing something, whether it is a verb, whether it's missing a noun, or whether it is missing a helping verb, right? But you need to miss out on something. It says the junior soccer league commences its new season in January. Or do we say layers and layers of cheese, lettuce, tomatoes, and onions? So basically, sentences are more words. Let's say sentences are words that are more, you have your subject as well as your predicate, right? Whereas fragments do not have that. So we can then say the junior soccer league commences its new season in January. Or we can say layers and layers of cheese, lettuce, tomatoes, and onions, right? So that is a sentence fragment, which is a complete sentence. Electrical eels stun prey with an intense electrical charge. Or do we say never spoke of Jodie's secret to anyone except her? So we need to complete this sentence, which is a complete sentence. Electrical eels stun prey with an intense electrical charge, or never spoke of Jodie's secret to anyone except to her. So if we were to select a complete subject, remember complete subject has a subject as well as a predicate. A fragment. A sentence, it's got a subject, a predicate, which means it's got a subject as well as a verb. Now we need to select the sentence fragment. Remember, a sentence fragment, it's where it is missing something. It can either be a subject that is missing, a verb that is missing, or it can be a helping verb that is missing within that sentence. All right, so we need to select a sentence fragment. Wouldn't be able to produce red blood cells without a skeleton. Or it says news reports alerted everyone in the area to the approaching tornado. So we need to select the sentence fragment. Sentence fragment. And if we select the sentence fragment, we would select wouldn't be able to produce red blood cells without a skeleton. Because now the question is who wouldn't be able to produce red blood cells without a skeleton? Right? So you need to always know that with a fragment, right, or with a specific sentence, it need to express a complete thought by having both subjects. It needs to have the verb. It needs to have a helping verb also. But if it misses any one of that, then it is a fragment. Which sentence is a sentence fragment? Africa is home to some of the world's oldest civilization. Trisha fulfilling her dream of hiking to the top of Mount St. Helens. And if we were to select that sentence fragment, we have Africa is home to some of the world's oldest civilizations, or Trisha fulfilling her dream of hiking to the top of Mount St. Helens, right? That is missing something, and it's not a complete sentence, it's not a complete thought. We need to select a complete sentence, right? It says the reporter writing an article with questionable sources, or Shireen always enchants audiences with the raw emotion in her performances. All right. So if we select a complete sentence, remember a complete sentence has a subject and it has a verb, not missing any one. It says the reporter writing an article with questionable sources, or Cherie always enchants the audiences with her raw emotions in her performances. And that is a complete sentence. All right. So we said that a sentence, right, it expresses a complete thought. It has a subject as well as a verb or predicate, right? And then we have a fragment, right? And a fragment, it is missing either one of it's missing a noun, it's missing a verb, or it's missing a helping verb within that sentence, right? Um, within that sentence, that is a fragment. So now we're going to complete the sentence, or we're going to ask ourselves, is it a run-on or if it's a complete sentence? All right. So we said a sentence is a group of words that forms a complete thought. It has a subject, it tells us who or what we're talking about, and it has a verb. It shows us the action that the people, or let's say the subject, is doing. So now we have run on sentences, right? And run on sentences is made up of two independent clauses that are joined without in punctuation or with just a comma, right? It's like saying, I knocked on the door, it opened, right? Or it started raining, we ran inside. So we said a sentence expresses both a subject as well as a verb. But a run on sentence, right? It's made up of two independent clauses. Remember, independent clauses are actually clauses that can stand on its own, right? But now it is being joined either by a conjunction or it's just being joined by a comma, right? Without any in punctuation at times, just a comma. So we said that with a run on sentence, right? With a run on sentence, we have I knocked on the door, it opened, and here also it started raining, we ran inside. So we need to then be able to fix that sentence, right? We need to fix that sentence by either rewriting that sentence or by writing that sentence as a compound sentence, right? And if we rewrite that sentence, we can then say, I knocked on the door, full stop. It opened, right? So that is how we can fix it up. It's we first write our first sentence, full stop. We write our second sentence because either way, I opened is on its own, right? So which means that what we did was we then added our full stop over here and it became a capital letter. So now it is two sentences. All right. If we want to also fix our if we also want to fix our run-on sentence, right, we can fix it by writing it as a compound sentence by joining our two independent clauses, and then adding a conjunction which is either and to that sentence, right? And then joining that two sentences, including our conjunction that we have basically placed there. And then our sentence is going to look like this. I knocked on the door and it opened. That is a sentence with a compound. So we call it a compound sentence. It is where you rewrite it as a compound sentence by joining that two independent clauses, right? Adding a comma as well as a coordinate in conjunction, either that is but or so, as well as and, right? All right, so now we're going to our test where we're going to say, is it a complete sentence or is it a run on? So we need to say if it's a complete sentence or if it's a run on. So which is a run on sentence? It says, the restaurants in the vicinity are expensive. Hugo can't afford them. Or the poems of Walt Whitman always inspire me. So we now need to select the run on sentence. Which is a run on sentence, right? So we said a run on sentence would then be, the restaurants in the vicinity are expensive. Hugo can't afford them, right? So that is a run on sentence. We need to select a complete sentence. Mrs. Crosby rummaged through the medicine cabinet for the thermometer, or the Australian man designs yachts. He races them in international events. All right, so a complete sentence is where we would say, Mrs. Crosby rummaged through the medicine cabinet for the thermometer. That is a complete sentence. It has a subject as well as a verb, right? Now we're going to select a run on sentence. It says, grab another log, the fire is dying down, or in Japan, the Hashin Expressway actually runs through a building. All right. So if we look at a run-on sentence, then we would say, let's go to this one. Yes, that's a run-on sentence. That two sentences can actually stand on its own, right? So sometimes a sentence that you basically want to put a comma or just put and to, that is sentences that can stand on its own, which means that it's got two, let's say, independent clauses, right? Now we need to put a or show which one is a complete sentence. It says, our dog Bailey watches the mail carrier wearily. She sometimes growl at him. Or Chicago, Illinois, and Rome, Italy have the same latitude. So now we need to select the complete sentence. Ah, this actually sounds very funny because it looks like it was wrong. Let's select a run on sentence. It says, hail pelted the roof during the storm last night, or clean your camera lens, there's a fingerprint on it. All right, so hail pelted the roof during the storm last night, and clean your camera lens, there's a fingerprint on it. We need to select a run on sentence. Let's do this one. Ah, and that one is correct. All right, the last one. It says in 1954, a meteorite hit Anne Hodges inside her own living room. Or we say Beth will recite this poem. It was written by Emily Dixon. Let's do this one. Yes, and that is a complete sentence. All right, so this is now the end of our lesson on sentences, fragments, and run-ons. We see the sentence, right, or sentences expresses a complete thought. It has both subject as well as a predicate, or let's say a verb. And then with fragments, right, it does not complete or does not express a complete thought. It's either missing a subject, it's missing a verb, or it's missing even a helping verb, right? Or sometimes either one of that or both. And then we have a run-on sentence, and run-on sentence, right, are words or sentences that can basically stand on its own. And we can fix that sentences by either making it into a compound sentences or adding a comma or so on. All right, so that is now the end of our lesson on sentences, fragments, and run-ons. Thank you very much, grade 7, for joining the class. Till next time, goodbye.